was in 2002, and it was 2 weeks after I got married for the third time. Earlier this month, or middle of last month, my wife and I celebrated 10 years of marriage. And I need to let you know that that's twice as long as the first 2 times put together. So I'm getting better. Wonderful blessing. So now, here it is, 2012, and I'm speaking to you again 10 years later. What an amazing journey. I could also let you know what I thought I knew, or whatever it is that I said, or whatever it is that I shared the first time, was not where I was at the second time, and is not where I'm at this time. This is an amazing journey. This is a lifelong thing. It's a constant thing. I'm growing. I'm learning. My perspective has changed. Everything is just out there is wonderful. I knew, I started using pretty regularly at 15. Everything I said I would never do, that I did. I did everything I said I would never do, and one of the things I said I would never do was stop using drugs, so thank God for that. What I wanted from drugs, and I love drugs. I mean, why would I do it for so long? I wanted a life-changing experience, and I got one, but it wasn't the life-changing experience that I wanted. As a result of coming to Narcotics Anonymous and following most of the suggestions enough to keep me clean, I have had a life-changing experience, and this is the one I've been looking for my whole life. And I'm going to share it with you after I read this. I might actually remember some of the things I wanted to say. Thank you. It's my Halloween costume. And I am wearing fishnet stockings underneath my pants. That's okay. November 4th, exchanging love. We give love because it was given to us so freely to us. New frontiers are open to us as we learn how to love. Love can be the flow of life energy from one person to another. Basic text, page 100 to 101, which would now be 102 to 103 or something like that. Yeah, whatever it is. Love given and love received is the essence of life itself. It is the universal common denominator connecting us to those around us. Addiction deprived us of that connection, locking us within ourselves. The love we find in the NA program reopens the world to us. It unlocks the cage of addiction which once imprisoned us. By receiving love from other NA members, we find out, perhaps for the first time, what love is and what it can do. We hear fellow members talk about the sharing of love, and we sense the substance it lends to their lives. We begin to suspect that if giving and receiving love means so much to others, maybe it can give meaning to our lives too. We sense that we are on the verge of a great discovery, yet we also sense that we won't fully understand the meaning of love unless we give ours away. We try it and discover the missing connection between ourselves and the world. Today, we realize what they said was true. We keep what we have only by giving it away. Just for today, life is a new frontier for me, and the vehicle I will use to explore it is love. I will give freely the love I have received. That's some good stuff there. I'm going to do another very quick passage out of the basic text, and this is actually the first page, book 1. It says, many books have been written about the nature of addiction. This book primarily concerns itself with the nature of recovery. If you are an addict and you have found this book, please give yourself a break and read it. This program is not about the disease of addiction. It's about recovery from the disease of addiction, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. Is there anybody out there that doesn't know how to use drugs? Some people are uncertain but keep coming back. So we don't need to talk about that. I can say this. I can say that the last 6 months of my using, I had seizures from drug overdose. I was arrested on a second-degree felony for aggravated trafficking, facing 3 to 15 years in the state penitentiary, and my first son was born premature as a result of my wife's and I addiction. He weighed 1 pound 14 ounces at birth, and they said if he lived, there would probably be something majorly wrong with him. And the only thing that's wrong with him is he's a lot like his dad, which today is actually a good thing. So facing that time in jail, I decided it was time for me to go get some help because it might reduce the sentence, you know. For those of you who know me for a really long time, and I used to own a bar in Athens, Ohio, which is not too far up here. And Christina talked about Athens, and we have a lot of mutual friends. And then my bar, I'm going to try to stick to traditions as much as possible, but I know something's going to come out of my mouth that says, ooh. But there's this magazine now that talks about drug using. And in 1974 to 1978, it rated Athens, Ohio, as a party university school, the #1 party school in the country. Now, in Athens, it's a little bit different. There are more bars than there are actually churches in a small town. There are 32 bars and only 28 churches. And my bar was rated as the #1 party bar and the #1 party school in the country. And I'm still proud of that today. Well, but because that was my goal. I mean, you know. So I went to this treatment center, and they asked me, what drugs do you use? And for 2 minutes, I'm going by category, and I'm breaking it down, you know, this one, that one, that one. And after about 2 minutes, the lady on the side of the phone says, what about alcohol? And I said, well, I drink alcohol every day, but I own a bar, I drink alcohol every day, but I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. I think we call that denial. So I go to this treatment center with the idea that I'm going to stop using all these drugs, and I'm just going to drink this one and smoke this one. That was it. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. I'm in this treatment center, and I have heard of Alcoholics Anonymous before. Not too many cringing faces. That's pretty good. It actually mentions Alcoholics Anonymous in our book, and it doesn't have the F word anywhere in here. And we use that one all the time. That doesn't seem to bother anybody. So I go into this treatment center, and about 8 days clean, I'm sitting there, and they're bringing in a Narcotics Anonymous H&I meeting. And I had never heard of Narcotics Anonymous before. And there was this guy there that shared his story, and he had a twinkle in his eye and a smile on his face, and I could relate to everything he said, and I wanted what he had. And that's my buddy Phil, and he's my sponsor today. Not my first one. You know, it was interesting. We had been friends ever since that day. Wherever he moved, wherever I went to, whatever relationship he in, whatever relationship, we stuck it together. We hung out. And I never asked Phil to be my sponsor because I thought, well, he's my best friend in recovery, and if I take him on as a sponsor, I'll be losing some of my support system. And as it turned out, it got down to the point where there wasn't any other better choice than for Phil to be my sponsor. Now, let me let you know how this disease works. It's still here. Addiction, recovery, not too far. Since Phil has been my sponsor, I call him less now than I did when he was just my friend. Busting it up over here. So I'm in this program. Now, here's another thing about us addicts, and I know this 100%. All of us are above average in intelligence. Every single one of us, you have to be in order to become addicted in the first place, to be able to kind of manipulate and do what we do. There's also no such thing as a bad, horrible, terrible, nasty addict. We do some bad, terrible, horrible, nasty things as a result of our addiction, but we're not bad, horrible, terrible, nasty people. We are good, loving, wonderful, tremendous people. And we need to know that about ourselves, 100%. intellectualize. So I'm sitting in a group one day in this treatment center, and the counselor, and we're having this discussion, and there's this one particular drug that's made out of wine that you drink. Oh, no, it's made out of grapes. I'm sorry. I didn't want to mention any other drugs. I blew it. That bag's opened. Tried my best, you know. So I said to her, what's wrong with drinking a glass of wine with dinner? It aids with digestion and it enhances the flavor of the food. She says, Ivan, when was the last time you had a glass of wine with dinner? I said, I always have a glass of wine with dinner. She says, no, you misunderstand me. When was the last time you had one single glass of wine with dinner? Never. 3 bottles of wine with dinner, but never a glass. And so certain things happened, and certain things were said to me that kind of opened up the doors a little bit, you know. I hadn't been using for a few days. My brain was doing whatever it does, and things were bubbling up and stuff. And so it's very apparent to me that there were particular times in my recovery that I heard certain things, or certain people said certain things that were right on exactly what I needed to hear, and certain things were not. And I didn't understand, and then later on, I understood. It's a process. It's a wonderful process. As much as the disease of addiction is progressive, the recovery process is progressive too. It just keeps getting better. So now, in treatment, the counselors are thinking, maybe it's not a good idea for me to go back and work in this bar, you know. And I'm tending to agree with it, you know. Now I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm living in, thank you. And I'm living in Athens, Ohio, which I thought was in the middle of nowhere. They sent me to a treatment center in Omaha, Nebraska. That was more in the middle. So I'm at this treatment center over there, and I'm learning this stuff, and I got lots of stories about that, and I don't think I'm going to tell them, but I am going to tell you one. They said you got to get a higher power. I said, and it could be a God of your understanding, anything you want it to be, and be outside the box and a little bit facetious in my way. The next thing I looked at was my higher power, and it was a fire hydrant outside the house on the street. Now, it didn't work as a higher power because I really didn't believe it. My next higher power, because it has changed, my understanding of God, and they told me that I'm the spiritual speaker, and I didn't see anywhere in that thing where it said spiritual, okay? And so, sorry about it. But I'm going to try. An electric guitar was my next higher power. Jimi Hendrix and at the outside issue, sorry. All those big guitar players, and loud, And then I realized that this guitar is made out of wood and came from a tree. And in this park up the street over there was this big, humongous pine tree. And that pine tree became my higher power. And I would go and I would sit and I would hang out and I would read and do that. And one day I went to the park and they cut the tree down. They cut down the pine tree. I'm going crazy. Now the thing is that was neat. The pine tree was gone, but there was little pine trees around because other pine trees were coming from that one, kind of like the spark thing, So I come back to the house, and I'm looking around in the living room, opening up doors and closing them, and looking under the couch and the chairs and checking it out. And somebody comes and goes, Ivan, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking for my higher power. He said, why don't you sit down in that chair, open yourself up, and let your higher power find you? I thought, I like that. And I've been doing that ever since. So, for the most part. I think when they talk about, conscious contact, and it should be as consistent and as much as possible. So now, there weren't any NA meetings in Athens. I've spent pretty much the first 3.5 years of my recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous, because it was there and it was wonderful and it helped me. And you hear people say that everybody relapses. No, not everybody relapses. For whatever reason, doing the process, I have not picked up since I put down on March 1st. I tell people I got clean on March 1st, 1982 BC. That's before crack. So. People will say that relapse is a part of the recovery process. Relapse is never, ever a part of the recovery process. It is always a part of the disease of addiction. Right now, right here, in this moment, everybody in this room, this is the easiest it's ever going to be for you to stay clean. The easiest, no matter whether you have 10 days or 10 years. It's the easiest it's ever going to be. It's a progressive disease. It does not get better. So where was I? I was in Nebraska. Cool. I was doing the higher power thing. Say, I have this thing. I have this other disease. It's called ADD. It's addict deficit disorder. We all got it. I'll be standing up here talking. You'll be looking at me. We'll be making eye contact. I'll be talking about this, and I'll think about that, and I'll talk about this, and you're all going to be nodding your head because your brain thinks the same way my brain does. I just love it. It's so simple, you know. So I'm doing the thing. We start this NA meeting, and there were 3 people from Alcoholics Anonymous who came to that meeting every week for a year to help us get going. I think they just wanted to get rid of us, but either way, there was a lot of love there. And so I'm starting to sponsor a couple people and stuff like that, and I send this one part. I heard about AREA, service. Service is a big one. And I sent this one guy that I'm sponsoring down to Huntington, West Virginia, because the Ohio River Valley area is almost as big as the state of Ohio. We have a few people that remember that one. And it was at this guy's house in his basement. And he came back and he explained to me what was going on. And I decided the next time I'm going to go. So I went to this meeting in the basement of this friend of mine's, well, soon-to-be friend of mine's house. And we were talking about regional service, and we were talking about they needed a position on the regional level for activities chairperson. Now, I owned a bar, and I threw parties all the time. I'm a good party thrower. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. And I was the only one that ran for it, and I got elected in my first position as regional activities chairperson. And when I asked them what the regional activities chairperson did, they said, we don't know, we never had one before. And I need to let you know that my lovely friend over there, David H., was the first person that ever connected me to recovery and service in Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you, my friend. So here I am, surrounded by all you wonderful people, and 2 of the people who were probably most influential in the process of my recovery and getting me going here are here with me today. And it's a wonderful thing. Yeah. I cry a lot. It's mostly happy tears. The difference between a happy tear and a sad tears are warm when they go down your face, and happy tears are cool. Think about that next time you cry, which might happen very soon. I don't know. So I came back. And I'm doing this thing. I'm at a place, really. I have 3.5 years clean, and now I'm going to tell you about when I just had a few months and I went to prison. We talk about jails, institutions, and death. I don't know about anybody else, but there's several of us, I believe, here that if it wasn't for jails and institutions, we would be dead, because that's what got us here in the first place. And when I went to prison, I got the thing reduced, and I went to prison on a 2nd degree, on a 4th degree, didn't have 5th degrees then, felony, and 6 months to 3 years, whatever, and the judge decided to shock me out after 30 days. But going to prison, you hear all these stories, you know. I'm thinking, I'll wear 2 pairs of underwear in case one pair falls off, you know. And I don't wear underwear, so. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. I'm not going to prove it to you. Okay. And this thing that scared me most about being in prison was that 90% of the people that were in prison were just like me. And I thought, do I belong here? You know? That's one of the reasons why I do what I do, and H&I is my main thing that I've done. And I've been involved on all levels of service, you know, group, area, region, zone, world, all that kind of stuff. Steve, our speaker from last night, and I know each other through service and stuff like that. when I ran into him yesterday, he told me that he was going to be the warm-up speaker, and I told him I was going to be the clean-up speaker. I love you. So that's how I got here, and that's what's been going on, and I've been doing it pretty much ever since. It's no question about it, the more we give, the more we get. If I can share with you out there, and some things we're not ready to hear yet, and some things we are, but if I can share something with you that took me 5 or 10 years to realize, and I can share that with you where you can get it with 3 months or 3 years clean, then that's a good job of carrying the message. It's not like I'm not going to tell you about this shit because I didn't learn it till I had this much clean. I'm a very slow learner, by the way. My friends will tell you. I'm going to bust that again. So I wanted to take the time, and this is something new for me, to share with you a little bit about some of the insights that I have gotten over the years of practicing the spiritual principles of this fellowship. We have 12 steps, and we have 12 traditions. And unbelievably so, the way that it's come about through our predecessors, and my predecessor absolutely is Alcoholics Anonymous. People tell me I'm their predecessor. Well, that's good. This is who my predecessor is, so it's all in the family. And there is a particular thing about Narcotics Anonymous for me because this is my home. You are my brothers and sisters, and all those other aid programs are cousins and uncles and aunts. They're a little bit more distant, but they're still family. You know. And I forgot what I was talking about again. A likely story. Okay. So what it is, and here I'm gonna be stepping out a little bit. What we're talking about here in the 12 steps and 12 traditions, they're spiritual principles. They were that way 5,000 years ago. They're that way now. They're going to be that way 5,000 years from now. It's just the way it is. People want to say, well, why does that happen? And isn't that they talk about miracles. Well, miracles are pretty good, except when they happen all day long, all the time. You know, it's like, how can you call it that? Coincidences and luck. There is no such thing about that. It is the way that it is, and that's just the way it happens. It's not like people who have a lot of clean time or mind readers or soothsayers, whatever word you want to use for that. People say, I have a hard time with a higher power. All right, jump up and don't come down. Go stick your finger in a light socket, see how that feels, you know? Yeah, it's all out there. It's just a matter of us being able to be aware of it. The thing that's happened for me more than anything else in recovery is my perspective has changed. The way that I look at things. My thinking is still pretty screwed up. My first thought is still wrong. But I try to filter what's going on up here, which is wrong, through here first before I do that. So there are other books out there. They're all pretty thick. That are religious books. And in the context of the 3 that I'm thinking of that are the major ones, and I'm trying not to mention them, the stories are different, the analogies are a little bit different, what happened, the sequences of things that are a little bit different, but the spiritual principles are exactly the same in all of them. And in this book and what we do in Narcotics Anonymous are the same spiritual principles that invoke the world and who we are and what's going on. Thank you. Okay. Because I'm coming to the crescendo here in just a little bit, so. I don't know what you just said, but it was funny. Yeah. I'm not going to do anything in order. I'm just going to do it as it comes. This is my first time actually revealing this perspective. When we look at our steps and our traditions, and they're supposed to be done in order and things like that, when you go through them over and over again, they get a little bit easier. The first 2 or 3 times, the 4th step kind of sucks, and after that, we look forward to doing it. The personal inventory we do on a daily basis out of step 10. At first we got to do it every day. At the end of the day, I think about what it's doing, what's going on. And then it happens is as soon as something happens, I immediately know that what I just did was wrong, and I promptly admit it. People say, well, how do you know if it's God's will or not? Well, if it makes you feel like crap, it probably wasn't God's will. Okay. If it feels good, okay. Depending, unless it's immediate gratification, because that doesn't work, okay? That was a sexual comment, by the way. It says in step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and if you didn't know it, by the time you get to step 12, you have had a spiritual awakening. How do you know you have a spiritual awakening? Because it says right here, having had a spiritual awakening. This is a pretty simple program. It says, we try to carry this message to addicts and practice these principles in all of our affairs. All of our affairs. Everything we do. Family, work, community, service, all of it. It says it right there. And then what it says is that we practice these principles. We take these principles with us everywhere we go. One of the things that's happened to me in my recovery is me being who I am, and this is who I am, and this is how I'm at most of the time. People have invited me to sit on boards and committees outside of the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I was involved with a ministerial association. I was involved with a couple of domestic violence shelters, being on the board, asking me to be a part of and to share my experience, strength, and hope. Whoa. They didn't know who I was, but no, they did. I think they did. What that means is I can go anywhere. So in the book, it says, God is loving, caring, and greater than ourselves. I thought for years, that's where somebody came in and changed some of the words in my book. I thought it said God was loving, caring, and forgiving. It doesn't say that. And God is not forgiving because in my understanding of God, if God is unconditional love, which I believe that's the case, there's nothing to forgive. Except for us to forgive ourselves. And that's what the steps help us do. What a blessing. Freedom. Okay. So I can take these things and go anywhere I want with them. And I do that. The first tradition says our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. And because I can practice these principles in all my affairs, I'm not twisting anything. I'm just putting some things in front of another and just taking out little. Anytime there's a comma in a step, I can stop that step right there and don't have to, So it says personal recovery depends on NA unity, and NA unity depends on our personal recovery. You want to get involved in service, your recovery has got to come first in order to be able to do these traditions. The question that I ask some people, do you have recovery-related service or service-related recovery? Maybe some of the reasons why we have some difficulties at service. and I love service. I was just sharing this last night. I don't hold any service positions. I don't hold any elected service positions, but I used to. And I think when they saw, oh, are you doing service? Well, they used to say entering ashtrays, but they don't have ashtrays at meetings anymore. So stacking chairs, that is service. That is service. Sponsoring, that is service. But I think that getting involved in service and having a position, an elected position in Narcotics Anonymous, will help to change your life. That life-changing experience you're looking for, that's one of the things that happens there. So I look at this and I think on the fifth step, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Well, forget about the exact nature of wrong. We admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being. My first thought is wrong, okay? So if I'm thinking I'm going to do something more than like brush my teeth or wipe my butt or whatever it is that you do on a normal basis, I need to check it out with God, myself, and another human being. And it doesn't have to be my sponsor, just somebody in my support system who I know that I can trust and do it. If you don't have at least 15 phone numbers of people of the same sex that you are, and have people with at least 2 to 5 years clean in there that you can go to, you're missing a point in that. Our service symbol says God, self, society, and service. We need to have that broaden that base, the base of freedom. It's a long story. I'm not going to go there. I know what I'm thinking. Okay. You do? You know what I'm thinking too? You read that part of the book, the preface? The book's supposed to go. You're supposed to read all the black stuff in the book. Okay. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. Doesn't say what. It used to say honest. They took that out because they know we're not honest. And it doesn't say how much of a desire. So when I go to a meeting and there's a couple people in there that want to get their things signed because the courts do it, which I don't do that, but that's my own thing. And they say, I don't have a desire to you. I'm here because of my probation officer and my judge. Well, that probation officer and that judge has a higher power too, and you're there because your higher power wants you to be there. And all you have to have is your little tiny pinky toenail has a desire to stop using, and that's all you need. So, okay. So if you happen to be in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, or you see somebody in a Narcotics Anonymous that says, I'm here because of something else, I don't have a desire to stop using, they have a desire to stop using, they just don't know it yet, they're in denial. Perspective. And then it says each group has one primary purpose: to carry the message to the addict that still suffers. And I don't care how much clean time we have. The addict who still suffers is not relevant to clean time. There are people with 20 to 30 years clean in this room who have suffered at a point in their recovery or not, and we need to be there for them every step of the way. So. Step 12 says anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. And boy, hasn't that helped me in a lot of situations. There used to be this guy, I was on the World Service H&I committee, and he was the chairperson for the World Service PI committee, and he was a doctor, and I'm not going to mention any names, of course. But he was a little bit weird. He's okay. He liked to go to the dances, and he wore Argyle socks that matches Argyle sweaters, and he wore these little wristbands and hat bands for his sweat and stuff like that. And he really didn't have anything to offer that I wanted, you know. But it just so happened I was at a workshop, and this is a long time ago that this happened. I'm at a workshop, and he shared with me in the seventh tradition that every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. And so if you're on the other side of town saying that that other meeting on the other side of town sucks, you are not being fully self-supporting of the fellowship that saved your life. They're not talking about financial contributions. Self-supporting of the fellowship that we have of ourselves. And I heard this guy say that. And I went up to him afterwards, and I gave him a hug, and I thanked him for saying that. And the reason why I was able to hear him say that is because I put principles before personalities. I'm going to share something real quick that somebody reminded me of. I'm sharing whatever comes to my mind first so we can get out of here. But the reason why I say I'm an addict and my name is Ivan is because my principle is I'm an addict and my personality is that of Ivan. And that's why I introduce myself the way that I do. I shared that, 20 years ago? Yeah. I still do it, man. I still do it. It works for me. If it works, keep on doing it, man. If it's not, stop, you know? But they say something about how do you get rid of your character defects? Stop doing them. How simple is that? Good luck. And I don't believe it. I don't believe in luck. So you know. Okay. So here it goes. It says here in the fifth tradition, it says we carry the message to the addict that still suffers, and then here in the 12th step, it says we carry this message to addicts. Now I believe that everybody on the planet is either in recovery or relapse. Either their life is getting better or it's getting worse. If it's getting worse, you're in relapse. The last thing that happens when you relapse, is you use. Once you use, the relapse is over, you're in the compulsion you're using. If the last thing that happens when you relapse is you use, relapse is always preventable, 100% of the time. It's not what you're doing that's the problem, it's what you're not doing. I'm talking about myself, but thank you anyway. So, there was a point to that. Carry the message to the addict. Doesn't have to be the addict that still suffers. Oh, and everybody is either in recovery or relapse. So everybody is that. So I'm not going to stop with the addict thing. That part of carrying the message is how we conduct our lives. It doesn't matter what I say up here. It matters what I do when I walk out of here. Going to the gas station is like going to a meeting. We're filling up. But what's important is not that we fill up at the meetings, it's what we do in between the meetings we go to, how we conduct our lives. It's not what we say that matters, but what we do. And what we're doing, us low-life sacks of shit, us addicts, us scum of the earth, we are in the process of saving the planet. There's over, 50,000 meetings worldwide in over 138 countries. Pretty impressive. So here's my goal. I am pretty certain that God put me on the planet to help save it. I'm also pretty certain that I can't do it by myself. I'm also pretty certain that you're here for the same reason and maybe don't know it yet. So here's what's up. You have a choice. You have a choice on whether you want to be a part of the problem or whether you want to be a part of the solution. I can tell you this, after being a part of the problem and proud of it for a very long time, being a part of the solution feels a lot better. It's just wonderful stuff. We're in a particular time here, and I try not to have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Opinions. But I've been doing it for the last 35 minutes or 40 minutes or so. And elections are coming up. The lesser of two evils is still evil. Whatever it is that you think of, say whatever it is, and the money that we spend, and I'm not going to go there because we don't have the time and it's not appropriate anyway. But if we got together, and not only just this 12-step program, but the other 100 and whatever many they are. And the best form of advertising is word of mouth. And not only is it the best, it's the least expensive. We're going to start a new party. It's called the Anonymous Party. Okay? We're not going to do any campaigning, fundraising, stuff like that, word of mouth. We're all going to get together and we're going to tell all the other addicts, whatever they're addicted to around the planet and the country, and our family members and stuff like that, to vote for this one particular person, whether it be a president or a congressman or a governor or even the city senate or whatever they call those different positions. And if everybody in recovery in some sort was to vote for that person would win. I believe that. And so if we had everybody, and they have to work at 12 steps, though. You have to check them out, because there are some people out there that have more clean time than they do recovery, okay? So we have to at least have some kind of a watchdog on that one. But if all of the elected officials in this country and all over in Europe and Spain and Paris and France, and Spain, Paris, and France, Germany, Italy, you know what I'm talking about, and in South America, which is a fast-growing fellowship, and the Middle East, and over, and of all of the heads of all of the major countries were working a 12-step program, we would have peace on earth. Not only is this an equal opportunity disease, it doesn't care how old we are, what color we are, how much money we have, what we live, what language we have, what religion. It doesn't care. Recovery doesn't care either. The process of recovering to 12 steps does not care. I know of a time when I was at a convention in Israel where two gentlemen from Israel, and you know what the primary religion is there, so I don't have to mention it, went down to Alexandria, Egypt, and you know what the primary religion is there, so I don't have the messages, to help to support a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. We don't care. So, question is to you today, do you want to be a part of the problem? Do you want to be a part of the solution? And how you conduct yourself when you leave this convention today will show where you stand in your recovery. And I love you all. Thank you for letting me share.